They promised adventure. They offered salvation. Welcome to Camp Red Pine, where the wilderness has its own agenda, and the prize money comes with a terrifying cost. My name is Noah Reyes, and I came here seeking a way out, a place to forget. Instead, I found myself living by 3 strange rules just to survive the camp's history. What's the creepiest camp or outdoor story you've ever heard? Tell me in the comments below. And if you're brave enough to embrace the true spirit of Red Pine, subscribe to Night Creepypasta Rules and ring that bell. Because here, the songs aren't just for singing. They're for joining. The challenge begins now. The brochure for Camp Red Pine promised a transformative wilderness experience and a shot at $10,000 for a broke college dropout like me, haunted by mounting debt and the lingering ghost of a camping trip with my late brother Daniel that ended in whispered apologies and a too small coffin. It felt less like an opportunity and more like a dare from a universe with a sick sense of humor. But 10 grand was 10 grand. So I found myself on a rattling bus, heading deep into the Appalachian foothills, towards a place that already felt like it was trying to forget the 21st century. The ancient pines pressed in on the narrow, winding road, their silence absolute, yet underscored by a faint, almost sub-audible hum that seemed to vibrate up from the very earth. It was the kind of quiet that made you acutely aware of your own heartbeat. Harper Quinn, the senior camper, and our official welcome wagon, was waiting at the dilapidated wooden archway that declared Camp Red Pine, Est, 1923. She was all bright smiles, boundless energy, and a wardrobe that looked like a carefully curated collection from a vintage store. Denim overalls, a faded band t-shirt that might have been genuinely from the 80s, and hiking boots that had seen better decades. Her enthusiasm was infectious, almost unnervingly so. "Welcome, Pathfinders," she chirped, handing each of us a neatly laminated card. "These are just a few of our little Red Pine traditions. The key is to embracing the true spirit of the challenge." I glanced at the card. 3 rules. Don't trust any camper who arrived before you. They've been here too long. If you wake up with dirt under your fingernails and no memory of digging, check for fresh graves. When you catch yourself humming the camp song you've never heard before, you're becoming part of the camp's history. A chill, unrelated to the crisp autumn air, traced its way down my spine. "Quirky," I muttered to the guy next to me, a lanky kid with a GoPro already strapped to his head. He grinned. "Totally aesthetic, right? Great for the channel." This was Troy Walters, apparently. Harper seemed to catch my unease. Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes, a startling hazel, held a flicker of something unreadable. "Oh, we've had our share of dedicated long-termers," she said, her voice a little too bright. "Take Jake Miller, last year's big winner. Such a friendly guy. Got a bit too chummy with some of the folks who'd, shall we say, overstayed their welcome." She paused, her smile tightening almost imperceptibly. "We found his prize money neatly stacked in his tent. Jake, though, Jake was just gone. Guess he loved the camp too much." The way she said it, a slight emphasis on loved, sent another shiver through me. The camp itself was a collection of rustic log cabins, a sprawling main lodge with a massive stone fireplace, and a mess hall that smelled faintly of pine cleaner and something else, something sweetish and vaguely unsettling, like overripe fruit just on the verge of decay. Other campers were milling about, a motley crew of about 20, their expressions ranging from Troy's eager anticipation to a quiet, almost hunted wariness I recognized in myself. That first night, Harper gathered us around a crackling bonfire. The flames cast dancing, distorted shadows on the towering pines that encircled the clearing like silent, ancient sentinels. She led us in a camp song, her voice surprisingly strong and clear. The melody was simple, almost a nursery rhyme, but the lyrics were odd, vague, filled with allusions to sleepers in the deep wood, whispers on the breeze, and roots that bind the ages. It was catchy, disturbingly so. Later, as I was heading to my assigned cabin, I heard Troy, who had been so dismissive earlier, softly, almost unconsciously, humming a few bars of that very same melody. He stopped abruptly when he saw me, a faint flush rising on his cheeks. My cabin was small, damp, and smelled of old wood and mice. Sleep was a long time coming. Sometime in the deepest part of the night, I startled awake. The fire had died down to embers, and the camp was wrapped in an oppressive silence, broken only by the sighing of the wind through the pines, and something else. A faint, rhythmic scraping sound. Thump, scrape, thump, scrape. It seemed to be coming from the woods just beyond my cabin, regular as a heartbeat. I told myself it was an animal, a deer perhaps, or just another camper restless in the unfamiliar surroundings. The air, when I cracked the window, carried the faint, unmistakable scent of freshly turned earth. I shivered, pulled the thin blanket tighter, and forced myself back to sleep, the unsettling rhythm an unwelcome lullaby. You will not believe the beta I got this morning. Troy Walters cornered me at breakfast, his GoPro already recording. Met these two dudes down by the creek. Said they've been here like ages, knew all the best fishing spots, secret trails, everything. Said they'd show me where the old gold prospector's cabin is supposed to be. He was practically vibrating with excitement. The ones who arrived before you? I asked. Rule number 1 ringing in my ears like an alarm bell. Don't trust any camper who arrived before you. They've been here too long. Troy waved a dismissive hand. Dude, they're practically camp legends. A bit weird, sure. Dressed like something out of a 70s flick, but super chill. He lowered his voice. They even knew about the Whispering Hill Harper told us to avoid. Said it's where the real game is. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Later that day, during a mandatory orienteering exercise, I found myself paired with Mia Tran. She was quiet, observant, with intelligent eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She was a pre-med student, she told me, here for the challenge and the psychological study of it all. She, too, confessed to finding Harper's relentless cheerfulness a bit off. It's like she's performing, Mia had said, her brow furrowed. And this camp song, I can't get it out of my head. We navigated the course together, an unspoken alliance forming against the backdrop of the two silent woods. The morning after Troy's encounter with the veteran campers, I woke up with a dull ache in my shoulders and a gritty sensation under my fingernails. I glanced at my hands. They were caked with dark, rich earth. A wave of cold dread washed over me. Rule number 2. If you wake up with dirt under your fingernails and no memory of digging, check for fresh graves. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had no memory of leaving my cabin. No recollection of wielding a shovel. I had no memory of leaving my cabin. No recollection of wielding a shovel. But the evidence was undeniable. Fighting down a rising panic, I forced myself out of the cabin and into the woods, in the direction I thought I'd heard the digging sounds that first night. It didn't take long. Tucked away in a small, shadowed hollow, almost invisible beneath a thick carpet of pine needles, was a patch of freshly turned earth. It was roughly rectangular, about 6 feet long. There was no marker, no indication of who or what might lie beneath. Just disturbed soil in a place where no soil should be disturbed. I backed away slowly, the taste of bile in my throat. I found Harper by the mess hall, supervising the breakfast setup. I tried to keep my voice steady. Harper, I found something in the woods. Looks like a fresh grave. Her smile didn't waver. It was a bright, fixed thing. Oh, Noah, you city folk do get spooked easily, don't you? She said, patting my arm with unnerving familiarity. Probably just an animal burrow, or some old roots the rain uncovered. This forest is ancient, full of little secrets. Don't let your imagination run away with you. It's all part of the Red Pine Challenge, conquering your fears. She glided away, leaving me with the cold certainty that she was lying. The camp song was becoming an insidious earworm. I heard it everywhere. Other campers humming it as they whittled sticks. Mia tapping out its rhythm on her knee as she studied the camp map. Even the wind in the pines sometimes seemed to carry fragments of its mournful melody. One afternoon, I was trying to repair a loose board on my cabin porch, and I realized, with a jolt of pure, visceral horror, that I was humming it. Softly, unconsciously, the melody had seeped in. Rule number 3. When you catch yourself humming the camp song you've never heard before, you're becoming part of the camp's history. Later that evening, the mess hall was abuzz. Troy Walters was officially missing. His GoPro, however, had been found near the creek, tucked inside his abandoned backpack, still switched on, its battery almost dead. Harper had it. She played the last recoverable clip for a few of us. A glitchy, terrifying few seconds. It showed Troy, his eyes glassy and unfocused, humming that damn camp song, a shovel I didn't recognize slung over his shoulder. He was walking into the deepest part of the woods, following a tall, shadowy figure, whose clothes seemed to ripple and shift, like they were from no discernible era. The figure turned slightly, just before the clip ended in a burst of static, and for a horrifying instant, it looked like one of the veteran campers Troy had been so excited about. Harper's official explanation for Troy's disappearance was infuriatingly glib. It seems our young adventurer decided the Red Pine Challenge was a bit too challenging, she announced at the morning briefing, her smile unwavering. He packed his bags and headed home last night. Such a shame. He had real potential. His expensive camera gear, his backpack, all gone, according to Harper. Mia and I exchanged a look. We didn't believe a word of it. The image from that corrupted video file. Troy, zombie feed, following that shifting figure, was burned into my mind. Driven by a gnawing fear, Mia and I started our own quiet investigation. We tried to find the veteran campers Troy had spoken of. We'd see them occasionally, always on the fringes of the camp, always solitary or in pairs, never interacting with the newer arrivals unless approached. They were unsettlingly quiet, their clothes a strange amalgam of faded outdoor gear from what looked like the 70s, 80s, even earlier. When we tried to talk to them, their answers were vague, disconnected. Asked how long they'd been at Camp Red Pine. One woman with hollow eyes, and a dress that looked like it belonged in the 1960s. Photo album simply smiled a vacant smile and said, "Since the song first found my heart." Another, a gaunt man in a tattered flannel shirt, just stared past us and whispered, "The Pines remember everything, even the names we forget. They seem to be fading." Their features lacked definition, their skin an almost translucent, papery texture. It was as if the camp was slowly erasing them, like old photographs left too long in the sun. The atmosphere in the camp grew heavier, more oppressive. The subtle hum from the earth was more noticeable now, especially at night. A low, resonant thrum that you felt in your teeth. Whispers seemed to skitter through the trees, just at the edge of hearing. Sometimes like children crying, sometimes like distorted fragments of the camp song being sung by a multitude of off-key voices. More campers reported waking with dirt under their fingernails, a growing shared dread spreading through our dwindling numbers. Several simply weren't at breakfast one morning. No announcement from Harper, just empty bunks. Mia was struggling. The camp song had taken a deeper root in her. She hummed it almost constantly now, a low, mournful undertone to everything she did. Her medical training warred with the creeping, inexplicable horror. She'd started a new journal, obsessively trying to transcribe the lyrics of the camp song. But she complained that they shifted, that verses she was sure she'd heard were now different, or gone entirely. "It's like it's rewriting itself in my head, Noah," she'd confided, her eyes wide with a fear that mirrored my own. One evening, she told me about a dream she'd had. She was in a vast underground chamber, surrounded by countless children, all of them singing the camp song, their voices beautiful and heartbreakingly sad, their small hands caked with earth. The next morning, Mia was more distracted than usual. She mentioned needing to find a specific type of moss for the poultice, something an old camper had told her about. Later, on a small rotted wooden signpost, half buried in the pine needles near the first fresh grave I had discovered. It was almost completely illegible, but I could just make out a few heavily weathered, hand-carved letters. Jacob R. And below it, even fainter, a date, 1998. I remembered Harper's list of previous winners who successfully completed the challenge. Jacob R. had been on it, supposedly from just a few years ago. But this grave, this marker, felt ancient. The wood was crumbling, the carving style archaic. The wood was crumbling, the carving style archaic. A cold dread spread through me. How many layers of lies was this camp built upon? More empty bunks, more forced smiles from Harper. 2 more campers, a young couple who'd been inseparable, vanished after the girl had been heard obsessively humming the camp song for a full day. Her eyes glazed over. Mia and I, driven by a grim necessity, found their resting places not far from Jacob R.'s. 2 fresh mounds of earth, side by side, nestled amongst the ancient pines. No markers this time, just the raw, silent testimony of the disturbed soil. Our group of 20-odd campers had dwindled to less than half that. The air of forced adventure was gone, replaced by a quiet, gnawing terror. "This isn't a game, Harper," I said, cornering her by the cold embers of the morning's cook fire. Mia stood beside me, pale but resolute, though I could hear the faint, almost inaudible hum of the camp song on her breath. "People are disappearing. We're finding graves." Harper Quinn finally dropped the mask. The bright, senior camper smile vanished, replaced by a look of bone-deep weariness, her hazel eyes suddenly centuries old. "Camp Red Pine has its own needs, Noah," she said, her voice a low, tired whisper. "Its own rhythm. It has a long, long history, and some are chosen to become a permanent part of that story. You could even call it an honor, of a sort." She looked from me to Mia, a flicker of something unreadable. Pity, resignation, in her gaze, curiosity, and denial. They bury more than just cats around here. Some songs just demand to be finished. Her warning was no longer veiled. That night, while Harper was ostensibly leading a night navigation exercise for the few remaining newer campers, a ludicrous idea given the circumstances, Mia and I broke into her senior camper cabin. It was surprisingly Spartan, almost monk-like, but a heavy, bolted wooden chest sat in the corner. It took us a while, but we managed to pry it open. Inside was a chilling testament to Camp Red Pine's true nature. Dozens of small personal trinkets. A tarnished silver locket, a pair of cracked sunglasses, a child's plastic dinosaur, a single pearl earring, dog tags from different eras, faded photographs of smiling faces. All strangers, all long gone. And then Harper's own original Camp Red Pine ID card, dated 1983. The photo was of a scared, hopeful-looking teenager with Harper's eyes. Beside it, a tattered, water-stained journal, also from 1983. We read it by the flickering light of my flashlight. Harper's early entries detailed her excitement, then her growing unease, the strange rules, the disappearances, the insidious song, then a terrified account of her first encounter with something she called the Songkeeper. A presence in the woods, a voice in the earth that demanded adherence. The final, tear-blotched entry spoke of a terrible, whispered bargain. "It wants voices," she'd written. "It wants the song to go on. If I help, if I keep the melody alive. I don't have to fade. I don't have to be forgotten underground." Mia let out a small, choked sob. The camp song was stronger on her breath now, almost a discernible melody. She clutched her head. It's so beautiful, Noah," she whispered, her eyes unfocused. "The children, They're calling for me. They want me to sing with them. She stood up, her movements jerky, puppet-like. Mia, no! I grabbed her arm, but she pulled away with surprising strength. It's okay, she said, a strange, serene smile on her face. It's time for my verse. She walked out of the cabin, not towards the main camp, but directly into the deepest, darkest part of the woods, humming the camp song in a clear, sweet voice. I tried to follow, but Harper was suddenly there, blocking the cabin door, her face a mask of cold implacability. Let her go, Noah, she said, her voice devoid of all warmth. She is accepting her part in the chorus. It's peaceful for them in the end. Once they stopped fighting the music, from the direction Mia had gone, I heard it. A chorus of children's voices, pure and haunting, joining Mia's. The sound was achingly beautiful and utterly terrifying. The Songkeeper was calling its own. Devastated, my mind reeling, I stumbled back to the chest. My flashlight beam fell on one last item tucked beneath Harper's journal, an old, cracked photograph, sepia-toned, showing a group of smiling campers in clothes from what looked like the 1970s, posing by the camp's main archway. In the background, standing slightly apart, was a much younger-looking Harper Quinn, barely a teenager, already wearing the senior camper badge, and next to her, his arm awkwardly around her shoulder, looking uneasy even then, was a boy with a familiar, lopsided grin. My blood turned to ice. It was my older brother, Daniel. Years before his official death, years before I was even born, already a part of Camp Red Pine's cursed history. The photograph of Daniel, my brother, standing beside a teenage Harper in some lost decade, shattered something inside me. It wasn't just a camp, a game, a curse anymore. It was personal. It had always been personal. The Songkeeper's tendrils reached further, deeper than I could have ever imagined, entwining my own past with this nightmarish present. Mia was gone, absorbed into its sorrowful chorus. Troy was a ghost in a corrupted video file. Danielle had been one of its earliest verses. And I, Noah Reyes, was slated to be the next. Rage, cold and clear, cut through the fog of fear. Harper had to be stopped. The Songkeeper had to be silenced. But how do you fight a song? How do you kill a memory woven into the very soil and roots of a place? My mind, a chaotic jumble of grief and adrenaline, snagged on a detail from Harper's 1983 journal. A passing mention of the old Camp Rec Hall, a place she'd been warned to avoid, a place where the original camp elders used to store the old music. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was all I had. If the song was the poison, perhaps its source was the antidote, or the detonator. The rec hall was a dilapidated, collapsing structure on the far edge of the camp, half swallowed by the encroaching forest. The door hung crookedly on one rusted hinge. Inside, the air was thick, with the smell of mildew, decaying paper, and something else, that same faint, cloying sweetness I'd noticed in the mess hall. Stronger here, like concentrated, solidified sorrow. Moonlight lanced through holes in the rotting roof, illuminating dust motes dancing in the dead air. And in the center of the room, covered by a tattered canvas sheet, was a hand-cranked phonograph, its brass horn tarnished and green. Beside it, a single thick shellac record in a plain brown sleeve. The label, handwritten in faded, spidery ink, read, Red Pine Anthem, Original Master Recording, 1923. Do not play. This was it, the Songkeeper's heart. As I reached for the record, a voice, soft and dangerously calm, spoke from the shadows. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Noah. Harper Quinn stepped into a sliver of moonlight, Her face unreadable. The youthful mask was gone, replaced by an ancient, profound weariness. Her eyes, though, held a desperate, almost feral gleam. "You knew about my brother," I accused, my voice tight. "He was one of them, wasn't he? One of your sacrifices." Harper's expression didn't change. Danya was a strong voice. He sang beautifully for many seasons. Her words were like shards of ice in my gut. The Songkeeper remembers him fondly, as it will remember Mia, as it will remember you. If you cooperate, I spat, by letting you feed more innocent people to this thing, so you can keep living your stolen life. It's not stolen, she hissed, her composure finally cracking, revealing the raw desperation beneath. It's preserved, maintained. Do you think I enjoy this, Noah? Do you think I wanted to become this relic? I was like you. I came here for a summer, for fun, and then the song. It got inside. The Songkeeper. It doesn't like silence. If the new verses stop, if the chorus thins, it turns on those of us who remain. It reclaims its due. Her voice dropped to a terrified whisper. It starts to unsing you. You fade. You forget. And then, you're just another whisper in the pines. She took a step closer. Don't break the record, Noah. It won't stop the Songkeeper. It will only enrage it. It will unravel everything. Everyone who still has a thread of themselves left here. It's better this way. A new voice, a fresh verse. The cycle continues. Is order of a kind. There's no order in this nightmare, I said, my hand closing around the record. As my fingers touched its cold, smooth surface, the record itself seemed to groan. The faint, subterranean hum I'd grown accustomed to swelled into a deafening vibrational thrum that resonated in my chest. My bones. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth, pine resin, and 1,000 forgotten sorrows. From the walls, from the floor, from the very air around us, the voices began. Not just children this time. Men, women, their voices overlapping, a discordant, overwhelming chorus, all humming that same insidious, inescapable camp song. The fading campers, those hollow-eyed remnants I'd seen on the trails, began to shuffle into the rec hall from the surrounding darkness, drawn by the sound, their movements jerky, their eyes vacant, fixed on the phonograph. Harper lunged for me, her face a mask of primal terror. "No, you'll doom us all," I sidestepped her, adrenaline surging. The Songkeeper was manifesting, its presence a crushing weight, a vortex of sound and sorrow. The faded campers were closing in, their hands outstretched, not to attack, but to touch the music, to reclaim their place in the chorus. My mind was under assault, the camp song a battering ram against the walls of my sanity. I saw flashes. Daniel, younger, laughing by a campfire. Mia, her eyes distant, humming as she walked into the woods. Troy, his face a rictus of confusion, digging his own grave. I had to break the cycle, not just for me, but for Daniel, for Mia, for all of them. Harper grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my flesh. "It will unmake you, Noah. You'll be nothing." But then another voice cut through the cacophony, a memory, sharp and clear. A memory, sharp and clear. Daniel, years ago on that last disastrous camping trip, teaching me a stupid off-key song he'd made up, a song about resilience, about finding your way even in the darkest woods. A song of our own. With a roar, I wrenched free from Harper. With a roar, I wrenched free from Harper. I didn't smash the record. Smashing it felt too easy, too much like what the Songkeeper might expect. Another verse of destruction in its endless song of sorrow. Instead, fueled by a desperate, insane hope, I cranked the handle of the ancient phonograph, placed the heavy needle onto the shellac disc, and as the first scratchy, mournful notes of the Red Pine Anthem, 1923, began to fill the groaning hall, I started to sing, loudly, defiantly. Not its song. My song. Daniel's song. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. The two melodies clashed, a dissonant, screeching battle of sound waves. The Songkeeper screamed. A sound that was 1,000 voices tearing themselves apart. A sound of pure, unadulterated agony. The faded campers clutched their heads, some collapsing, their forms flickering and dissolving like disturbed smoke. Harper shrieked, her youthful features contorting, aging in fast forward, her skin wrinkling, her hair turning to ash, her stolen time unraveling with terrifying speed. The silence, she screamed, her voice cracking into an old woman's rasp. It can't bear the silence between its notes. She lunged for the phonograph, but it was too late. The rec hall began to tear itself apart. Timbers splintered, the floor buckled, the very air seemed to fracture. The Songkeeper, its melody broken, its power disrupted, was imploding. And in the heart of that temporal, sonic vortex, I saw it, not a creature, but an absence, a void shaped like a hollow tree, its roots made of entangled, screaming human forms, its branches ending in skeletal, beckoning hands. Harper, now a withered crone, was pulled screaming into that void, dissolving into a final sorrowful note. I knew I had to escape, but as the rec hall disintegrated around me, a single, clear thought pierced through the chaos. The Songkeeper fed on memory, on the continuity of its song. To truly break it, perhaps a part of my song, my strongest anchor to my own past, had to be left behind. A final, discordant note to shatter its composition. My St. Christopher medal, the one Daniel had given me on that last trip, the one I'd never taken off. With a sob, I tore it from my neck and threw it into the screaming, imploding heart of the Songkeeper, just as the roof caved in, plunging everything into a roaring, consuming darkness. I came to amidst the splintered ruins of the rec hall, choking on dust and the acrid smell of something anciently burned. The oppressive vibrational hum of the Songkeeper was gone. The air, for the first time since I'd arrived at Camp Red Pine, felt empty, clean even. But the silence was vast, profound, and in its own way, terrifying. It was the silence of a battlefield after the last shot has been fired. The silence of a story abruptly, violently ended. My head throbbed. My memories of the final moments in the rec hall were fractured, dreamlike. The cacophony of warring songs, Harper's horrifying de-aging, the sight of that thing at the heart of the Songkeeper. And the medal, Daniel's medal. I clutched at my neck. It was bare. The phantom weight of it was an ache, a hollow echo. Had it worked? Had that final, desperate offering been enough? I staggered to my feet. The rec hall was a skeleton, its roof caved in, its walls leaning at drunken angles. The phonograph was smashed, the record shattered into 1,000 pieces. Of Harper, of the faded campers, there was no sign, only dust, debris, and the scent of very old, very disturbed earth. The rest of Camp Red Pine was similarly undone. Cabins stood empty, their doors ajar, a fine layer of dust already settling on their abandoned contents. The mess hall was silent, the long tables bare. The bonfire pit was a circle of cold gray ash. It was as if the newer campers, the ones who hadn't been fully consumed, had simply ceased to exist when the Songkeeper's influence shattered. A reset from this timeline, perhaps. Or maybe they'd just run, like any sane person would. I hoped it was the latter. Of Mia there was no trace, only the faint, lingering scent of pine and sorrow in the air near the spot where she'd walked into the woods. I was alone, utterly alone. The forest surrounding the campsite was just forest. The ancient pines stood tall and indifferent, their secrets now seemingly locked away, their malevolent sentience gone. The trails were overgrown, indistinct, as if years of disuse had settled upon them in a matter of hours. It took me the better part of a day to stumble my way out of the Red Pine Valley and onto a rarely used logging road. My story, when I finally managed to flag down a bewildered trucker, was a rambling, incoherent mess of haunted songs, impossible rules, and a camp that shouldn't exist. He probably thought I was on drugs, or worse. He dropped me at the nearest desolate bus station with a $20 bill and a pitying look. Back in the mundane world, the disbelief was a suffocating blanket. There were no official records of a Camp Red Pine operating any survival game in recent years. And the land, according to county archives, I later obsessively researched, had belonged to a defunct logging company and was slated to become part of a state wilderness preserve. It had been officially closed to the public since a series of unfortunate accidents and disappearances in the late 1980s. The $10,000 prize had been a ghost, a phantom lure, just like everything else about that place. Troy Walters and the other missing campers, they were just missing. Statistics on a long list of people who wander into the Appalachians and are never seen again. Mia Tran, her concerned parents had filed a missing person report weeks ago when she hadn't checked in from her wilderness adventure. Daniel was still dead, officially, from a hiking fall years ago. My experience at Red Pine hadn't changed that history. It had only added a horrifying, unbelievable footnote that only I could read. Years passed. 5. Then 10. The sharp edges of the horror dulled, as even the most terrible memories eventually must. But they never truly faded. I built a life of sorts. A quiet one. I worked as a night librarian in a sleepy university town, surrounded by the hushed rustle of turning pages and the comforting scent of old paper. A scent that, on bad nights, still carried a faint phantom undertone of decay and damp earth. I avoided pine forests. I never, ever hummed unfamiliar tunes, and I always checked my fingernails in the morning, a ritual I couldn't abandon, even though they were always clean. The silence that the Songkeeper left behind was its own kind of haunting. In the deep quiet of the library stacks, or in the pre-dawn stillness of my small apartment, I'd sometimes catch myself listening for a note out of place, a whisper on the edge of hearing. The absence of the song was almost as loud as its presence had been. One crisp autumn afternoon, I was browsing a dusty second-hand bookstore. A rare indulgence. My fingers brushed against a slim, leather-bound volume of local folklore from a neighboring state, one known for its deep, undeveloped woodlands. Idly, I flipped it open. A chapter caught my eye. The Whispering Glades of Hemlock Creek, a ballad of lost souls. The text described an old, abandoned logging camp, deep in the mountains, a place where unwary travelers were said to become ensnared by the sad old songs of the valley, their voices eventually joining the eternal chorus of the lost. Attached to the page with a rusty paperclip was a faded amateur photograph of a dilapidated wooden archway, almost invisible beneath a tangle of kudzu. Carved into the arch, barely legible, were the words, "Echo Pine's Retreat, find your verse." A cold dread, familiar and sickening, washed over me. Echo Pines, Red Pine. The names were different, but the chilling resonance was the same. That evening, unable to shake the feeling, I found myself searching online. Echo Pine's Retreat, Wilderness Immersion Experience, substantial cash incentive. The promotional website was slick, modern, full of smiling, brightly clad young people hiking and laughing around a bonfire. It promised a chance to reconnect with ancient traditions and discover the song within yourself. And there on the Meet Our Team page was a photograph of the lead wilderness guide and camp director, a young woman, early 20s, with bright, impossibly enthusiastic hazel eyes and a smile that didn't quite reach them. Her name was listed as Holly Meadows, but it wasn't her name that made my blood run cold. It was the small, almost unnoticeable pin fastened to the lapel of her carefully vintage flannel shirt, a small, tarnished silver pine cone. The Camp Red Pine Senior Camper Badge. The Songkeeper hadn't been destroyed. It had merely relocated, found a new grove, a new name, a new, eager senior camper to conduct its endless sorrowful score. The cycle was not broken. Perhaps it could never be broken. Perhaps places like Red Pine, like Echo Pines, were wounds in the world, and the Songkeeper was the infection that always eventually returned. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking. Outside my window, the wind sighed through the skeletal branches of the city maple trees, and for a fleeting, terrifying instant, I thought I heard it. A faint, almost inaudible melody, the opening bars of a song I knew too well, a song of deep woods and lost souls, and a history that never truly ended. The silence in my apartment was no longer empty. It was waiting for the next verse.